Whatever happened to the real Trainspotting characters? Did they end up okay? Or did life run them over?
Choose a job, choose a career, choose a family, choose a good television.
You're a quiet, sensitive type.
The rough area known for crime, you've got to leave as soon as possible. It's known for drug dealing, knife crime, motorbike theft, junkies and that. There's some friendly people and there's some wee bastards. It's a nice area in some ways, but it's got a bad name to it, so there's a cycle of built in. Everything that's going on constantly, crime every single day, something happening, that cycle gets bigger and bigger. Some of our friends are involved and they get you involved, so that gets you in a sticky situation, because we didn't ken who to trust or who to hang about with, because they could turn on you, and you didn't ken who to trust either. It's just about not speaking to them because they're going to be in the area, so we need to leave the area. Probably, but that's not easy. Not everyone's the same. Like sometimes I'd walk in the park and there's some old people who'd try to speak to me and they'll try to tell you what to do right and no wrong. Try to show you the better path. I think the things they're trying to tell us are true because they've been through it all before.
Welcome to Beauty versus the Beast, where we highlight stories of the beauty and humanity of everyday people overcoming what is beastie in today's messed up world. Today I'm interviewing an accountant from a family of teachers named Craig Graham. He created a nonprofit as part of a professional soccer, or as it's known in Europe, football club. You may not know, but football in Europe started as the people's sport. Most stadiums, even the nicest in the world, are located in poor areas. Craig's club, the Spartans, is no exception. Located in the poorest area of Edinburgh, Scotland, right in the area where the movie Trainspotting was based. In 2023, the Spartans were actually in the same division in Scotland as Wrexham in Wales. That's the team of Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, if you've seen the TV show. After 70 years of trying, last year, the Spartans actually earned promotion to the Scottish Second League. Watch to the end to see their celebration. So welcome to Beauty versus the Beast podcast. Today we have a wonderful gentleman by the name of Craig Graham, who is the CEO of Spartans FC and the Spartans Foundation out in Edinburgh, Scotland. Welcome, Craig.
Hi, Matt. Afternoon in my time.
Yes, sir. Good morning from the States. So starting with the very first question, Craig, I know that the Spartans FC has been around since 1951. So it's a football club that's been around Edinburgh for quite some time. But then in 2006, things happened, you became involved, and y'all started a foundation. What prompted you to do that?
One of these things where all the stars aligned. As a football club, we needed a new ground, and the ground we did have, the council, they owned it, and we had a long-term lease. Therefore, they had to help us find an alternative site. And at the same time, the guy, Dougie Samuel, who's now the head coach of the football team, to do a little bit of research to say, look, if we were going to build a new site, what did we have to do with it? And what became so apparent to us was that there was a massive need in our area in North Edinburgh to build much more than a football pitch. We had to build a social home. And so, particularly, we did research around our own area in North Edinburgh to look at some of the issues, the education challenges around significant problem with drugs. But we also went over to Scandinavia, Denmark and Sweden. We looked at Germany, looked at how some of their community clubs worked and how they were really embedded in their own community, in their own area, and what they did to provide a service for people of all ages. So therefore, it was appropriate to set up our foundation to say, look, yes, we are about football, and we do want to do well at football, but there's much more we can do.
Right. I know that Trainspotting was based in Pilton in Edinburgh. Is there any truth to the poverty and the problems that were in the area?
You know, so it's certainly still the number one drugs area in Scotland. Educational attainment is low. In Scotland, there's a social index for measuring deprivation. We've got something like 3 of the worst 7 postcodes, which is a postal area, in the whole of the country. So North Edinburgh as a whole, and then certain real pockets within it, have got real challenges with poverty. And so, obviously, you know, for us, and it gives us a challenge to make a real difference. And Irving Welsh, who wrote Trainspotting all these years ago, still comes along to the occasional games. So he's still around locally as well, checking up on how it's happening.
Fascinating. So the foundation has been around a while, and you shared with me a number of incredible stories of how the foundation has helped some of these kids. Please share some of the stories.
Yeah, a little bit of context before I dive into one. So our foundation work is mostly around youth work. It's around education. It's around health and well-being. These are our three pillars. But at the end of the day, sometimes it's just about giving somebody an opportunity. So there's a young lad, Stuart, who had been on various employability programs. His brother actually played for our first team. His dad was a volunteer. And Stuart had left school with almost no qualifications. He had some learning difficulties. And he just couldn't find something that would work for Stuart. And then one day he was just chatting to Dougie, the guy I mentioned earlier, the head coach of the football team, and said to Dougie, I love cleaning. Dougie said, you love cleaning? And the Stuart was always relatively well dressed. We said, well, we need a cleaner, Stuart. We need a cleaner. Can you help us out a bit? So he started off being a volunteer, and then he did more and more hours. And now he does 21 hours a week and has done for many years as a cleaner. But also, he volunteers at some other times in what we call front of house. So you walk along a little, almost like a lane into our ground, and invariably you'll meet Stuart. So Stuart now is in his late 20s. He's always smiling. He's always asking for people. He's always wondering what you can do for people. So, we've taken Stuart, who was really desperately struggling, and just given him that opportunity, and he's flourished. And that is really what fills our well when we see people like Stuart doing so well.
No kidding. The first time I showed up, I saw this young man, dark hair, smiling, cleaning, and he was there the whole time. We talked a little bit. He was super friendly, and I wondered, is he a coach? What is his role? It's such a great representative of the club. I was super impressed with him, and I didn't have no idea any of his background when visiting.
Yeah. There's another guy, Dean, who joined us about 7-8 years ago, actually as a participant in our para football. His predominant challenge, I think, was that he wasn't working at the time. He had lacked confidence. Once you lack confidence, it's almost a downward spiral. So then becomes, you begin to question yourself. Do you want to go out in the morning? Do you want to go and face up and talk to people? If you don't have a job, are you really that? Are you worthless?
So he wasn't even at the house.
Yeah, that's right. So we call it para football, or disability football is for all ages. So it starts with the schools and goes all the way up. So Dean came along, and we were investing heavily in that program because we've actually now got 100 boys, males and females on it of all different ages. Wow. And I think as it grew, Dean grew with it, because suddenly he could come down 2-3 times a week, play with people with similar issues, chat to them. And over that time, Dean has evolved from being a player to being a coach, a volunteer coach. He then met his future wife and he proposed to her on the pitch.
Seriously.
They've now got 2 kids. All these years later, he's still volunteering. He's helping our Sporting Memories group, which is a group for people with dementia. Yeah. Wow. He helps on the turnstiles on a Saturday. He's also picked up a job where he works night shift. I don't know where he finds the time to do it, but he's now volunteering 20 plus hours a week across a variety of things. And when there's people, representatives of the King, come and interview as part of the process for this award. And I was almost in tears listening to Dean's story. The 2 ladies who are called deputy lieutenants, they were always in tears listening to Dean's story. And he said, look, this is my life. Being in this place, being surrounded by people who don't prejudge me, gave me an opportunity when they first met me, took a chance on me. And he said, I'm just delighted to be able to pay back and help the next.
I'm amazed at how many programs that y'all have. I didn't even know about the Alzheimer's program that you just mentioned. And I had seen fairly visible your Ultras program, where you have these kids that are so excited about football, so excited about watching the Spartans. They got the drums going. They get everybody into the game. What is the background behind the Ultras?
So the background, it probably started about 2 years ago. So in European football, there is a push towards these kids called the ultras, and some of them don't have a very good reputation. So there were two boys in particular, aged 12, decided that they would form their own group, just coming along to games on their own. Right. But our youth workers spent a bit of time with the kids. By this time, the two had grown to about 15 or 20. And the kids explained how excited they were and what they were wanting to do. They wanted to belong to something. So we said, I'll tell you what, we'll set up a youth club. We'll set up an ultras youth club. You come along on a Thursday night and you can write songs, because some of the songs that are sung in the terraces in the UK are not particularly user-friendly and have got some bad words and bad meaning in them. So you can write your own songs about the Spartans players, about Super Blair Carswell in goals and all this stuff, and Cammy Russell on the wing. You can make your own flags. You can practice your drumming. It became a youth club, and it flourished and flourished and flourished. So, for example, for our recent game against Hearts, we had 70 ultras. Now, I'm not saying their behaviour is great all the time. Their behaviour, you wouldn't call it exemplary, but it's an awful lot better than it was. They know the difference between good and wrong. Occasionally, one or two of them step over the line, but we adopt a simple suspension system, like you would get suspended at football. So you have to take some time out, but you can come back and you improve your behaviour. But the ultras, quite fascinating, actually. We managed to get on some worldwide global FIFA initiative about good ultras across the world. And this was the big pro teams in France and Spain and Italy. And there's a little video clip of our ultras for this relatively small team at Tier 4 in Scotland, because they had made a couple of tifos, the flags that move up and down. They made a couple of particularly good tifos in the youth club. So they were held in very high esteem. So I was delighted for them. And, the players love them. You can see that at the end of the game, win or lose, the players go over and, the youngsters come down and give them a high five and ask them to autograph whatever they've got. So it's been a great success story for us. And it gives these youngsters, the boys and girls, a real sense of belonging.
Yes, sir. Well, I know they take great pride in those tifos. I know they take a long time to make.
Yeah.
Tremendous. So I also saw on your YouTube channel, which is fantastic, by the way, you have to check it out, that y'all were incredibly active during COVID. It seems like the organization has really just responded to the needs of the community when they appear. And COVID was one of those very fascinating stories. Share what happened and how the foundation responded.
When COVID came, we said, what do we need to do to help? Now, obviously, the challenge in an area like North Edinburgh is that there isn't particularly high employment, and those that are employed often get paid in jobs that are cash-related jobs that just didn't exist anymore in a COVID environment. So when it boiled down to it, when we started asking around, the number one issue was food. So what we did is we talked to all our network and some of the other organizations that worked in this past and decided to set up a food hub. So every day, literally hundreds of meals would get sent from Spartans. It was like a major military operation, logistics operation to get food, some prepared, some not, into the site. We then obviously had changing rooms, and people helping had to be certain distances apart. At the end of the production line, there was food in bags ready to go. We then had to work out where it was going, when it was going, how it was going. And so a very small number, maybe 4 or 5 weeks after COVID, into this massive food-based operation, because that's what the community needed. And we've prided ourselves over the years in saying, why do we exist? Well, we exist to help. Whatever's needed, we'll try and do to help.
So how many people, Craig, are in the Spartans organization?
If I explain the structure a little bit, because it'll just help. So you've got the adult football club. So that's got an adult men's team, an adult under 20, and a women's team. The women and the men's adult teams are semi-professional. So therefore, in there we've obviously got 40-odd players that are on professional forms. The under 20s, they pay to play. And in that, we've probably got about 25 or 30 volunteers supporting that. Everything, as I say, from running the gate to working the club shop to, the secretary to the child protection officer. But the bigger elements of the Spartans, we call the Spartans family. The Spartans Foundation, we've now got 36 full-time staff. We've just actually brought on another 3 in the last 2-3 weeks to do a particular after-school program. But last week for this King's Award, there were over 80 volunteers for that group.
Wow.
So that's a lot of youngsters who are helping. And then the third leg of Spartans is the Spartans youth section. So that's for children between the ages of 8 and 18. There are 600 of them, and we've got over 200 volunteers. So that's all the coaches and all the administrative, what we call a club secretary, but the men and women that organise fixtures, organise trips. So across our family, we've literally got hundreds of volunteers.
Wow.
And I think that's why we were nominated for this King's Award. So we won't know if we get it or not until towards the end of 2024.
So one thing that struck me when I visited was how every single time I came to visit the club, no matter what time of day, it was always vibrant. There were kids everywhere all the time, multiple fields. You got classrooms, you've got a small futsal court. There were people everywhere from all over the place. And it was funny because sometimes you didn't even know who was there on which field because your people are doing so many things.
And that, in a way, is part of what we are. So, some of the very wealthy schools rent our pitches a couple of afternoons a week. That's good rental income for the charity because we've got to get some income, don't we?
Yeah.
So you have these children mixing, who are from quite affluent backgrounds, mixing then with the local kids and, potentially making friends. And similarly, in some of the Spartans youth teams, again, you've got a real mix of children from different backgrounds and they're making friends for life.
So fascinating part of this podcast series is really the whole theme of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Please share, Craig, what was it within your background that saw you recognize a need and more importantly, got it to where you had to do something?
You learn from your family because you're brought up in an environment and it's your mum and your dad and your brothers and Mikey's and brother. And I think the thing in my family is about 70-80% of my family are all teachers. And teaching is about helping. It's about giving something back. It's about helping people develop. And I didn't take that line. I worked as a management consultant in my career with a company called KPMG and I had a fantastic time. As a consultant, you're still helping people, but it's a lot more of a commercial edge to it than a teacher. But there's probably something that subconsciously said, look, a lot of the rest of your family, Craig, did it from their teaching environment. There's something you could do from what you've done that will help. And you combine that with a passion that me and our whole family have got around football. And so it was almost two things merging together that gave the opportunity. I don't know if it's luck or if it's just, it's one of these things, the harder you try, the luckier you get, maybe.
For sure. So share where the club is now, where it's going, and how the club, the football club, is helping the academy and the academy helping the club.
So the relationship, I think, is relatively straightforward in that the football club is the anchor tenant of the foundation. The foundation has spent 6 or 7 million and is about to spend another £1 million on a fantastic facility. The success of the football club, all aspects of it, means we can pay more money to play at this fantastic facility and help the revenue coming in. The bigger the crowds are, the more people will spend in the cafe bar, and the cafe bar income goes to the foundation. So where the football club can really help is just by bringing more and more interested parties to the foundation. But then, likewise, what the foundation is, if somebody gets attracted to the foundation, they might come back on a Saturday or a Sunday to watch a men's or the women's team. So again, if the foundation is successful, it should boost the crowds, boost the support, boost the brand, because branding is so important. And we do have a fantastic brand. So I think there's this almost symbiotic relationship, which is you need them both to do well. And if both do well, they'll just help each other. For our men and our women's team, we want to be the best part-time teams in the country. By part-time, I mean our players are not full-time players. In other words, they all have other jobs or other students. The men's team are probably at the moment, we're in tier 4 and tier 3 is almost all part-time with a couple in tier 2. Women's team are currently sitting 9th in the top league. They're doing very well. There are 5 full-time women's teams. So again, but there's that bit of upside. Our plan is to grow by 50% in the next 3 years. So probably doubling over 6 years, which is roughly what we've done today. As I mentioned earlier, The challenges in North Edinburgh across our target areas, as I said, of education, youth work, and health and well-being mean that we could be so much bigger. But we've got to grow in a controlled manner. We've got to find the funding to grow. But it's about making that real difference and continuing every day to wake up and feel hungry about understanding what the challenges are in the community and putting in solutions that will help. And an important part of that is actually we've hired what's called a community development worker, Jenny, and her job is to get to a lot of the root causes. First, a little child comes to us as part of our program. We can provide a haven for 3 hours. We can provide them with food. We can give them a youth club. They have a great time, but then they go home to the same challenges they had before. So we've employed this community development worker, Jenny, to really understand the root causes. So we address root causes and not symptoms.
Right. I think it's so important. So I'm a football fan. You're a football fan. Spartans have had tremendous success of late. Please share some of the stories of recent football success.
So the way it works in Scotland, to get to Tier 4 is considered part of the Scottish Professional Football League, SPFL, and that is the holy grail, and it's hugely difficult to move between Tier 5, which has got a number of levels, and Tier 4. And this time last year, in February 23, we had to win our league, and I think we're sitting third or fourth, so we probably had to win 8 of our last 10 games. We then had to win 2 sets of playoff games to win through against teams with bigger budgets. And we worked through and eventually won our league, which was a big day. We then had playoff 1 against a team called Brechin City, which we won on penalties. Hugely nervous second leg at Brechin. And then we played a team called Albion Rovers, who were in Tier 4, and it was a playoff between the best team from below. And we won 2-1 in Agri, and an away day at a dreadfully downtrodden stadium they have in a place called Coatbridge. I don't mind me saying I wasn't the only one in tears because that was really 15 years of hard effort to get us up into the SPFL, but it paid off. So many people had worked so hard over too many years. Since then, we've continued that good run. We had we drew a couple of teams in Tier 2 in the League Cup at the start of the season. We won one of the games. We only lost narrowly another couple. And then we had a good run in what's called the Scottish Cup, where we played Hearts, who are sitting third in the Premier League, so Scotland's third best team. So we are third in Tier 3. So we're about 40th in the between 35 and 40th in the list of teams. We're playing the team that's third, and we just lost 2-1 to a goal in the 92nd minute in a game that was live all across the UK on television. If we could have dreamt what would happen in the 12 months from this time last year, nobody would have written it down. Nobody would have believed it. It would have just been impossible. So, but we are where we are. Everyone's worked together. There's a fantastic buzz about the place.
It's so heartwarming to hear stories of people who have worked so hard and done so well and being rewarded for the success, not just for the club itself, but for the entire community. It's tremendous. And I can't wait to hear King's Award that's like the king, right?
Yeah. In the UK, there are personal awards. You can become a knight, a sir, or you can do an MBE or an OBE. And a couple of us have got these for what we've done. But it's the first time the organisation as a whole has been nominated. So that would be a fantastic achievement. So we've had to answer lots and lots of questions. As I say, right. The assessors met a number of volunteers, including volunteers in our school who brought along our therapy dogs. So I think it was the first time these assessors had ever met volunteer dogs.
Oh my gosh.
Because in our alternative school, some of the children react really well with the therapy dogs. That gets some of these children to come out of their shell and show their real self. And then when the children are in that mood, we can then encourage them to do things they wouldn't normally do. So the King's assessor said it was the first time they had ever met volunteer dogs as part of a submission. So,
man, there is just so much depth to your organization. Is there anything else any other stories that you wanted to share?
I think just to give a balance, one thing we're quite conscious is if you always target the children and the adults almost at the bottom of the spectrum. But the other thing talking about is if we pick up on children who have the potential to do well, are probably relatively good academically, but in our environment where the parents are saying to them, once you get to 15, 16, you have to go out and get a job. because you have to pay your way, and therefore you don't have any time to do your homework. And so we've set up a program for them called our intern program, where we can give them some work. They might help us with coaching, they might help us in the cafe, earn what they would earn by doing a job like a cleaner. But also as part of that, put a bit of structure around that to help them with the university application, to give them some minimal qualifications in working with other people, and to make it a much more meaningful job, give them the same money, but at the same time, maybe carve out some time for them to do their homework. And so we're conscious that we have to work with these types of kids. Similarly, we do quite a lot in STEM kids who love the tech and so on and so forth, but they are often frowned upon at school, potentially even bullied. And we've got some outlets for them. So they've got their own youth club. And then we get some IT companies to come in, including one of our sponsors, Bad Dinosaur, who develop apps, to come in and spend time with them. And what that then does is allow them to flourish in an environment that's good for them. So I think it's important in what we do is to try and focus on everyone who needs our help, irrespective of where they are on any spectrum.
Yeah. Spoken by a true teacher.
That's just because my brother was over here from Denmark on holiday last week, and maybe it's rubbed off on me.
That's right. That's right. Well, Craig, thank you so much. Thank you for all you've done for Edinburgh. Thank you for sharing your time with me. Thank you for what you did for my son in Edinburgh when he was over there for that brief, wonderful time frame. I can't wait to continue to watch Spartans do well and go up and just have tremendous success. Thank you so much.
Great stuff. Thank you, Matt. Thanks for your time.
Absolutely. So that's the true story of Trainspotting. That a small group, I think Spartans have 30 employees, full-time employees. And this small group of dedicated people can help thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in North Edinburgh. And that's the whole point of the podcast. Just one person at a time doing a beautiful act can make such a huge difference. And because of what they've done, thousands of kids in North Edinburgh are going up. That's right.